यस्त्यक्त्वा रूपमाद्यं प्रभवति जगतः अनेकधा अनुग्रहाय प्रक्षीणक्लेशराशिः विषमविषधरः अनेकवक्त्रसुभोगी सर्वज्ञानप्रसूतिः भोजगपरिकरः प्रीतये यस्य नित्यम् देवो हीशः स वो व्यात् सित विमलतनुः योगदो योगयुक्तः योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचा मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं श्रीमते अनन्ताय नागराजाय नमो नमः। पातञ्जलमहाभाष्य चरक प्रतिसंस्कृतैः मनोवाक्काय दोषाणां हर्त्रे अहिपतये नमः। So, last time we met, we were discussing the sutra Vitaraga Vishayam Va Chittam. In this sutra, Patanjali is saying that whenever we are having some kind of disturbances where we feel a bit agitated, we seek the advice or the counsel of a well-wisher so that we can discuss with them and somehow find some peace of mind, stability of mind, etc. Or we can meditate on such good people who have a good mind, who have detached themselves from sensory objects, and do some visualization of how they would react in similar situations and then take responses based on that kind of meditation. So this is one solution that Patanjali is giving, where he is telling us how we can reduce our disturbances or agitation in the mind. Next he offers in the Sutra 138 a very intelligent and important way of finding some peace of mind. Swapna nidra jnana lambanam va. Many times we are disturbed about certain things, but we are not necessarily sure what is disturbing us. And we don't find answers to these problems because we really do not know what exactly is disturbing us or how to find a solution to such kind of problems. And therefore Patanjali is saying, well, there is another way. Okay, you don't have access to a well-wisher maybe, or you're not able to do some pranayama, for example, which he has said earlier, or you are not able to do some meditation, etc. And sometimes this is the reality. Sometimes we are not able to access these methods of finding some stability. So he says one way is to reflect about what kind of knowledge or what kind of revelations are coming out based on our dreams and our sleep. This is very, very important. Many of us, we think that sleeping and dreaming are just some normal casual activities of our daily life, and therefore we think that it is not so important, but actually in the traditional sciences this is very, very important. We will try to understand why Patanjali is saying that these can hold certain secrets for us in finding some peace of mind. When you look at the word swapna, which is essentially a dream state, it's a very important state because it's neither a state where we are fully asleep nor a state where we are fully awake. It's kind of like an in-between state. But what is the speciality of this state? This is very, very important. When we look at the kind of mind that we have, we are all not having only one kind of mind. Earlier, in a few weeks ago, I discussed about what are the different kinds of mind each of us can have. One of the mind that I talked about is what is called pratyaya, a meditative mind, a very fluid mind. That means a mind that is not actually bound by any restrictions. When you look at our day-to-day life and how we are functioning, very often we are people who are programmed into fixed routines of behavior, fixed routines of perception also, fixed routines of perception. Sometimes that perception which is fixed is limiting us from having certain clarity. For example, I visited an elderly gentleman who is not so well, and he was lying in the hospital in the bed, and there was a nurse that was attending to him, a very young nurse, and she is an Indian as well because this man was also an Indian man. And I had taken another friend of mine who is also a nurse from, let us say, another country, a European country. And when she came to see this gentleman, one of the first things she did was she went and held his hand. And that man who was in a state of suffering felt very relaxed, very happy and comforted. But this agitated the nurse because in our Indian culture, usually not everybody is holding the hand of another man. Usually it is a family member or perhaps the nurse. Even the nurse, she is not holding the hand of the man and just sitting only where what cleaning is needed she is doing, and then she is sitting and doing WhatsApp in the corner of the room. She is not doing anything else except the basic. But so that is a fixed perception that creates disturbances and instability. That woman, the nurse, got so agitated. And this is because our perception is fixed. Not when I say our, I don't mean only our Indian nurses, but all of us. We have certain fixed way of seeing things. Another culture has another fixed way of seeing things, and very often we are only seeing things through a fixed box, and that disturbs us. That disturbs us very much. And the reason why we are not able to go beyond this fixed box is because that fixed structure is so ingrained in us into what is called an asmita mind, a mind structure that is like an ego or an identification mind. We identify as an Indian, we look at things one way. We identify as a Westerner, we look at things another way. We identify as a doctor, we look at things another way. We identify as a scientist, we look at things that way. Whatever identification we have for long term, that builds structure, very strong structure in each of us. and somehow we get trapped within that structure. It's almost like we are a prisoner of that structure. We cannot think outside of that box. So therefore we are not able to transcend, and as long as we are conscious, because the asmita, the identification is so strong, we are not able to go beyond that box. Whereas in the state of dream, the mind that is dominant is a pratyaya mind, that is more a fluid mind. The boxes disappear. When you are in a state of dream, anything is possible. You can fly, you can become a dog for one moment, then from the dog you can go underwater and become a fish. Then suddenly you are an elephant, and then suddenly you can become a frog. Anything can happen. There is no restriction. The box that binds our identity as a prisoner disappears. So sometimes through dreams we see answers to our problems that are coming outside the box, because another kind of mind that is more fluid is operating. So we start to see things that are not exactly in one contained structure. We become free. So that is why Patanjali is asking us to reflect on our dreams and what knowledge is revealed in dreams. Because dreams are somehow an expression of our unconscious mind, which is an extension of our conscious state, but something is unresolved and it is stored, and one day that can show itself up in the dream, because we are not looking in one way. It's like, when you put a blinder to the horse, it can only look what is within that blinder, it cannot see outside this range. But suddenly you remove it, everything becomes visible. This is very much true. In all aspects, we are limited within one framework. Very simple example. We cannot hear all the sound that is there. Dogs hear better than we are hearing. We have a range. We are limited within that range. Dogs can hear a bigger range. But even they are limited because they have a bigger range. That doesn't mean they can hear everything. They can hear more than us. That means they also cannot hear something. So there is something more. So in all ways we are limited. The same. We are limited by a range of light as well. We cannot see when it's too bright. Can you look at the sun directly and see what is visible? No, you cannot. The same way when it's totally dark, we cannot see. We are also having what is called a dynamic range of light that we can see. We cannot see everything. So all our senses are also having this boundary. That is why our perception is within that boundary. Not only in terms of perceiving things, but also understanding also, because mind has certain boundaries because of culture, because of samskaras, what is called habits and patterns. We are ingrained certain things from childhood that traps us into one box. That combined with the sensory limitation traps us very much into this box. But the moment we are going into the state of dream and sleep, pratyaya, when it's operating, the mind transcends these boxes. The senses can hear the senses can perceive even things which are very, very subtle. Yes, the senses are cut out from external sounds, external sight, etc., because that is what is a dream. But that does not mean it is cut out from the internal sensations, because remember, knowledge is not only through senses, knowledge also can be left over unconsciously through what is called vasanas, impressions. A classic example, just to help you understand, when people are growing in their life, we are all getting formal education through schools. There are young children who go to schools and they are being taught mathematics, they are being taught science, they are being taught geography, they are being taught biology. All these things are being taught. But is it the only thing that they are learning? There is also a lot of unconscious learning. When they come home, mother or father are teaching, oh, do this and don't do that, and do this and don't do that. All these are what is called non-formal education that happens in the family. But still, there is some education that is being imparted consciously by parents. But it is not just this formal or informal conscious education that they are receiving, there is also unconscious education that persons are receiving. How mother and father are treating each other. Now, mother and father are talking and communicating every day. The child is not attending class there, but that interaction is leaving an impression on the child, what is called Vasana, on how it is seeing, and that will influence later its impression of how it should relate with its husband or wife when it becomes older. So that's not formal, that's informal, but that is left as a Vasana in that child. The same, so many things are happening in a society when a child is growing, in a neighborhood, how people are behaving, in a culture, how people are treating each other. All that is learned unconsciously. It's leaving impressions that are not often in conscious structures. Now, just because it is not conscious, it does not mean it is not influencing us. It is influencing us. Why somebody likes one color, why somebody does not like one color, nobody knows. But it may have an answer in the Vasana. Maybe something would have happened. Something would have happened. Like I have students where sometimes in the beginning we have talked, and they don't like one color and they say I don't like green or I don't like red or whatever. I'm especially thinking about a particular student. And I always used to ask her why. She would never understand. She would say, I just don't like it. It irritates me, it agitates me. Later, many years later, she herself found the answer that because somehow when some bad experience had happened when she was in her childhood, the color of the room was green or red, in this case red. And therefore, even though it was not like a person with a red t-shirt and red pants and red thing was treating her badly, but it was just because the context of the room was red, that impression was left. So every time red was there, she was getting agitated. This is how an unconscious thing is disturbing. Such kind of knowledge will get revealed itself through the dream states only, because we have to go beyond the boxed thinking. In modern science, we are always asked to think within a box. We are not asked to think outside the box. We have earlier in the Sutra lectures, when we talked earlier, few months ago, I talked about there are two kinds of jnanam, knowledge. What is called smriti samskara, janma jnanam, memory, knowledge that is born out of patterning and memory. That's our school learning, that's our scientific learning, etc. Boxed knowledge. Whereas there is also other knowledge, that is smriti samskara, shesha jnanam, that is beyond memory and learning. That is what comes from such unconscious sources. Now, just because something is not visible, it does not mean it does not exist. When you look at the iceberg in the ocean, you only see the top. That does not mean the bottom does not exist. The same way in our conscious structure, in our mental structure, emotional structure, there are certain conscious emotions, conscious patterns that we can see, certain unconscious, subconscious patterns we cannot see. And like the iceberg, only one small portion of our structure is visible, a very large portion of our structure is invisible, but it's still influencing us. In modern day psychology, if you study, you will understand that most of our decision making, most of our actions are often coming from unconscious structures, not from conscious structures. And that is what is very, very important for us to explore. And the only way to explore is through passing the boxes. going beyond the boxes. One way is through the process of dream. Another way is through meditation. Because the same mind structure, pratyaya, is dominant during meditation. The same mind structure is dominant during dream. Of course, in this context, meditation is not presented because Patanjali is offering solutions on how to reduce the agitation of the mind. When we are agitated, we cannot meditate, but we can sleep. So maybe there is a possibility that dreams are revealing that hidden knowledge that we have within our structure itself. That is why he is asking us to explore the knowledge that is coming out of dreams. Great acharyas in our tradition have always had realizations in their dreams, and they have pursued their dreams, and they have found lot of answers to their questions. And that's why Patanjali is presenting this forward. Then comes the state of what is called Nidra. Nidra is an even more interesting state because Nidra is the state of no mental activity. Abhava pratyayalambana tamo vrittir Nidra. Nidra is that state where there is no mental activity. But then how can the no mental activity state give us knowledge? This is a question that we can ask ourselves. Nidra jnanam, swapna nidra jnana lambanam. Va means swapna jnanam and nidra jnanam, knowledge that is coming out of sleep. So how can a state which has no mental activity have knowledge? This is a question we can ask. There are 2 or 3 ways in which this can be answered. The first is in the Yoga and Sankhya tradition as well as in the Vedic tradition in general, knowledge is not part of mind. Knowledge is part of Purusha. Purusha is consciousness, individual consciousness. In many Indian languages we call it Atma. That is what has knowledge, not mind. Mind has memory. Mind has information. Knowledge is different from memory. Knowledge is different from information. Somebody can say, okay, this room is hot because my thermometer is saying. Okay, that is information. What do you do with that information? That is knowledge. That's not part of mind structure, that is part of our Atma. So what happens in the state of sleep? What happens in the state of sleep? In the Upanishads they are saying that when we are in the state of sleep, we withdraw ourselves into our consciousness. When we are awake, we are going outward. We are going outward. That means we are seeing people, we are seeing animals, we are hearing sounds from the auto to the taxi, etc. We smell things from the outside, right from the flowers or the fruits or the coffee that the neighborhood auntie is doing, we smell. All these are external. But when we are sleeping, all the senses and everything is withdrawn. So we are going inward to ourselves. We are going inward to ourselves, which means we are going close to our Atma. In fact, our Vedic tradition goes even further. In the Upanishad it is said, not only we are going close to the Atma, we are actually going very close to the Paramatma who is in our heart. And who is Paramatma? Paramatma is Sarvajnani. He knows everything. So when we go close to somebody who knows everything and we stay there for some time, let us say 8 hours, we are sleeping. We are sleeping 8 hours. That means for 8 hours we have been very close to somebody who is the source of knowledge. Now, sometimes whether we learn anything or not, just being close to enlightened people relaxes us, makes us calm. We may not learn anything. Say for example, we go to we are in the presence of great people like, let us say, the Dalai Lama or Ramana Maharishi or Acharya, Krishnamacharya, etc. And luckily we have an option or an opportunity to stay near them for about 8 hours. even if we don't learn anything, just by being in their presence, we become calmer. We become very quiet. We don't get agitated more. If we are really getting agitated in presence of such people, something is definitely wrong with us and we need to find another way to solve our life problems. But just sitting there, then, even if we learn something or not, that's different. We will become very relaxed, we will become very quiet. That's what Patanjali is saying here. Patanjali is not saying in this sutra that when you are sleeping, you will become enlightened. He says when you are sleeping, when you are there, your mind comes down quietly. So when we are being in the presence of our Atma or Paramatma, we become quiet. We become less agitated. And when we are less agitated, more clarity comes in us. This also is explained in an Ayurvedic concept. Because clarity is dependent on what is called the sattva state or what is called the light state, the state of lightness. When we are disturbed, there is waves in the mind, it is not quiet. So when there is waves, there is no clarity. When you look at a lake, and the lake has a lot of waves, it does not reflect very clearly what is in front of the lake, like a mountain, or you stand in front of the lake, and when the water is moving up and down so fast, you cannot see any reflection. That's why you don't see a reflection in the ocean where there is so much waves. Whereas when the lake is silent, the reflection is clear, very clear image comes out. The same way, when we sleep very well, this is the other thing also. When we are in the presence of Paramatma, whether the Paramatma is giving us Upadesham or not, whether he is giving us teaching or not, just being in that presence will quieten us very much, quieten us down. That some clarity will arise automatically because there is absolute silence. That is why we will become more, we will find solutions to our problem because that clarity is arising. This is very, very important. That is why in the Vedic tradition, whether it's yoga or Ayurveda, etc., they always say, whatever happens, do not lose your sleep. Because sleep is that opportunity for us to be close to the divine. When we are fully awake, we are close to external objects. We are not close to the divine. When we are in deep sleep or in deep meditation, that is again, like I said, it is a state of withdrawal of our sensory and mental activities from the outside towards what is inside. Only such cases can we have proximity to the divine. That's why they say don't lose your sleep. Because if you lose your sleep, you are losing peace of mind because you are not close to the divine being that is inside your heart. You want to call it God, you want to call it Ishvara, you want to call it anything you want. It's a source of calmness, it's a source of stillness and quietness that can bring you to a very great state. And when that state of quietness arises, clarity will arise. That is why Patanjali is saying here, please have a reflection on sleep and the knowledge that arises from sleep. We don't really nowadays appreciate the value of sleep. Nowadays we are sleeping lesser and lesser because we have to check the phone every night, even during our sleep, to see if there is any Facebook update or WhatsApp message or something like that. Or we have so many internet devices in our house where all these vibrations through Wi-Fi is going on. It is creating this vata disturbance that we cannot sleep so easily. So we are somehow losing connection to the divine. That's why the Upanishad says when you have a good night's sleep, you feel very refreshed. Why? Because you have actually gone close to the divine and you have come back from that kind of journey, so you feel very refreshed. That's why we do pilgrimage, yatra. When we go to a pilgrimage to a temple and come back, we must not be tired, we actually should feel lighter. But nowadays we are doing in a hurry. We want to go quickly and come out quickly, so we become tired. When we do it in a very good way, we are not sleeping for 5 seconds or 1 hour. We are sleeping 8 hours. We go close and we slowly come out. Same way when you do a yatra, we are not going to go in a hurry and come out. That will not refresh us. If we follow the old school of how pilgrimage is done, and we go slowly and systematically following all the disciplines, we will feel very refreshed. And that is why I strongly believe that sleep is a pilgrimage inside to the divine that is inside your heart. So consider sleep as a pilgrimage and do that in that way, because that is what will take you close to this divine that is in our heart. These are the main reasons why Patanjali is presenting this sutra, Swapna Nidra Jnana Lambanam Va. It's a very important sutra, and it is asking us to reflect on our sleep, our dreams, etc. That's why in the traditional times they would always evaluate how good their sleep is every day. They would evaluate how their dreams will be every day, etc. And they would make the knowledge that is coming out of the dreams and sleep as a very important parameter before making certain decisions. Just to give you a simple example, one of the most important gifts a person used to receive in the old days is what is called mantra upadesha, initiation into mantras. Every person was waiting for that day where they would be initiated by their teacher for initiation into mantras. Now the teacher would not just randomly give one mantra. The teacher is testing that person very well. For a long time he would observe the person. Rather, nowadays you can go to Google or internet and type, I want a mantra, which mantra is good for you, and there are hundreds of things that is coming, many of them with mistakes, of course. In the old days it was not like that. The teacher was observing, and on the day before initiation, the teacher would initiate the person into what is called a dream initiating mantra. A mantra that would initiate or make some dreams that will reveal the subconscious of the person. So the next day, the student had to report what kind of dreams they had. And depending on the nature of the dreams that the person would have, the teacher would have a very great understanding of the subconscious of a person and would therefore give mantras accordingly. Not casually, because somebody you can't go to a teacher and say, hey teacher, I like Gayatri Mantra, teach me Gayatri Mantra. The teacher will say, no, sorry. The teacher may not just say, oh, I like Vishnu Mantra, give me Vishnu Mantra. I like Shiva Mantra, give me Shiva Mantra. The student cannot ask like that. The teacher would understand the subconscious through the dreams. It's a very important thing. That is why there is a lot of knowledge that can come out of our dreams. We can't just pass on the dreams. What Patanjali is asking us to do is make a very clear evaluation of the dreams. You can document your dreams if you want, or you can make a small note of them if you want. There are so many things that will be revealed in the dreams, and there are so many good things that can come out of the experience of sleep, both of which can contribute to many great answers, which makes us more quiet, makes us more stable. This is the sutra Swapna Nidra Jnana Lambanam Va.